Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit. We have been reading from Adi Lila, chapter 8, and we shall be reading from verse 85 onwards. Mukham karoti vachalam, pangum langhayate girim, yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Dinitaridam, Paramananda Madhavam, Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. श्री रूपा रघुनाथ पदे यारा आशा चैतन्य चरितामृत कहे कृष्णदासा। श्री रूपा श्री रूप गोस्वामी रघुनाथ श्रीला रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी पदे at the lotus feet yara whose asha expectation Chaitanya Charitamrit, the book named Chaitanya Charitamrit Kahe describes Krishna Das Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy. I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit following in their footsteps. Purport. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit Adi Lila 8th chapter in the matter of the authors receiving the orders of the authorities Krishna and Guru. So now on today's auspicious day of Nirjala Ekadashi, our chapter number 9 from the Adi Lila begins. The Desire Tree of Devotional Service. A summary of chapter 9 has been given as follows by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrit Pravaha Bhashya. In this chapter, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit has devised a figurative example by describing the desire tree of bhakti. He considers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as Vishwambhar, to be the gardener of this tree because he is the main personality who has taken charge of it. As the supreme enjoyer, he enjoyed the fruits himself and distributed them as well. The seed of the tree was first sown in Navadvip, the birth site of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then the tree was brought to Purushottam Kshetra, Jagannath Puri, and then to Vrindavan. The seed fructified first in Srila Madhavendra Puri and then in his disciple Sri Ishwar Puri. It is figuratively described that both the tree itself and the trunk of the tree are Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Paramananda Puri and 8 other great sannyasis are like the spreading roots of the tree. So the tree and trunk are described as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Paramananda Puri and 8 other great sannyasis are like the spreading roots of the tree. From the main trunk there extend 2 special branches, Advaita Prabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and from those branches grow other branches and twigs. The tree surrounds the entire world and the fruits of the tree are to be distributed to everyone. In this way, the tree of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu intoxicates the entire world. It should be noted that this is a figurative example being meant to explain the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 1 of chapter 9. Tam Srimat Krishna Chaitanya Devam Vande Jagat Gurum Yasya Anukampaya Swapi Mahabadhim Santaret Sukham. Tam, unto him, Srimat, with all opulence, Krishna Chaitanya Devam, unto Lord Krishna Chaitanya Dev, Vande, I offer obeisances, Jagat Gurum, spiritual master of the world, Yasya, whose, Anukampaya, by the mercy of, Shwapi, even a dog, Mahabidam, great ocean, Santaret, can swim, Sukham, without difficulty. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual master of the entire world, Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A dog can swim across a great ocean. Purport. Sometimes it is to be seen that a dog can swim in the water for a few yards and then come back to the shore. Here, however, it is stated that if a dog is blessed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he can swim across an ocean. Similarly, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, placing himself in a helpless condition, states that he has no personal power, but by the desire of Lord Chaitanya expressed through the Vaishnavas and Madan Mohan Vigraha, it is possible for him to cross a transcendental ocean to present Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Verse 2. Jai Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Gaurachandra, Jai Jai Advaita, Jai Jai Nityananda. Jai Jai, all glories, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaurachandra, whose name is Gaurahari. Jai Jai, all glories, Advaita to Advaita Goshani. Jai Jai, all glories, Nityananda to Nityananda. Translation: all glories to Shri Krishna Chaitanya, who is known as Gaurahari. All glories to Advaita Acharya and Nityanand Prabhu. Verse number 3. Jai Jai Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Gana Sarva Bhishte Purti Hetu Yanhara Smarana. Jai Jai, all glory, Shivas Adi to Shivas and others, Gaura Bhakta Gana, all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, Sarva Abhishta, all ambition, Purti, satisfaction, Hetu, for the matter of, Yanhara, whose Smarana, remembrance. Translation: all glories to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, headed by Srivas Thakur. In order to fulfill all my desires, I remember their lotus feet. Purport: the author here continues to follow the same principles of worship of the Panchatattva that were described in the 7th chapter of Adi Lila. Verse number 4. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunatha. Shri Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Shri Sanatan Goswami, Bhatta Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatt Shri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, Das Raghunath Das Goswami. I also remember the 6 Goswamis, Rup, Sanatan, Bhatt Raghunath, Shri Jiva, Gopal Bhatt and Das Raghunath. Purport: this is a process for writing transcendental literature. A sentimentalist who has no Vaishnava qualifications cannot produce transcendental writings. There are many fools who consider Krishna Lila to be a subject of art and who write or paint pictures about the pastimes of Lord Krishna with the gopis, sometimes depicting them in a manner practically obscene. These fools take pleasure in material sense gratification, but one who wants to make advancement in spiritual life must scrupulously avoid their literature unless one is a servant of Krishna and the Vaishnavas, as Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami presents himself to be in offering respect to Lord Chaitanya, his associates and his disciples. One should not attempt to write transcendental literature. Verse 5. Esab prasade likhi Chaitanya lila guna jani va na jani kari apna shodhana. Esaba, all these, prasade, by the mercy of, likhi, I write, Chaitanya, of Lord Chaitanya, lila gun, pastimes and qualities, jani, no, va, or, na, not, jani, no, kuri, do, apna, self, shodhana, purification. Translation: it is by the mercy of all these Vaishnavas and Gurus that I attempt to write about the pastimes and qualities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whether I know it or not, it is for self-purification that I write this book. Purport: this is the sum and substance of transcendental writing. One must be an authorized Vaishnava, humble and pure. One should write transcendental literature to purify oneself, not to credit. By writing about the pastimes of the Lord, one associates with the Lord directly. One should not ambitiously think, I shall become a great author, I shall be celebrated as a writer. These are material desires. One should attempt to write for self-purification. It may be published or it may not be published, but that does not matter. If one is actually sincere in writing, all his ambitions will be fulfilled. Whether one is known as a great author is incidental. One should not attempt to write transcendental literature for material name and fame. Verse number 6. Malakarah Swayam Krishna Prema Mar Taruh Swayam Data Bhokta Tat Phalanam Yastam Chaitanyam Ashraye. Malakara gardener Swayam himself, Krishna, Lord Krishna, Prema love, Amara transcendental, Taru tree, Swayam himself, Data giver, Bhokta enjoyer, Tatpalanam of all the fruits of that tree, Yaha one who tam unto him, Chaitanyam, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ashraya, I take shelter of. I take shelter of Lord Chaitanya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who himself is the tree of transcendental love of Krishna, its gardener and also the bestower and enjoyer of its fruit. Verse number 7. प्रभु कहे आमी विश्वम्भरा नाम धरी नाम सार्थक हया यदि प्रेमे विश्वभरी. Prabhu kahe, the Lord said, Ami, I, Vishwambhara, Vishwambhar, Nama named, Dhari accepted, Nama the name, Sarthak complete, Haya becomes, Yadi if, Preme in love of God, Vishwa the whole universe, Bhari fulfilled. Lord Chaitanya thought, my name is Vishwambhar, one who maintains the entire universe. Its meaning will be actualized if I can fill the whole universe with love of Godhead. Verse number 8. Eta chinti alayla prabhu malakar dharma navadvipe arambhila phalayodayana karma. Eta chinti, thinking like this, Laila took Prabhu the Lord, Malakar Dharma, the business of a gardener, Navadvipe, Navadvip, Arambhila began, Phala Udyana, garden, Karma, activities. Thinking in this way, he accepted the duty of a planter and began to grow a garden in Navadvip. Verse 9. Sri Chaitanya Malakar Prithivite Ani Bhakti Kalpataru Ropila Sinchi Ichha Pani. Sri Chaitanya, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Malakar gardener, Prithvite on this planet, Ani bringing Bhakti Kalpataru, the desire tree of devotional service, Ropila sowed, Sinchi watering, Ichha will, Pani water. Translation: thus the Lord brought the desire tree of devotional service to this earth and became its gardener. He sowed the seed and sprinkled upon it the water of his will. Purport: in many places, devotional service has been compared to a creeper. One has to sow the seed of the devotional service, Bhakti Lata, within his heart. As he regularly hears and chants, the seed will fructify and gradually grow into a mature plant and then produce the fruit of devotional service, namely love of God, which the gardener, the Malakar, can then enjoy without impediments. Verse 10. Jai Shri Madhava Puri Krishna Prema Pura Bhakti Kalpataru Tenho Prathama Ankura. Jai, all glory, Shri Madhava Puri unto Madhavendra Puri, Krishna Prema Par, a storehouse of all love of Godhead, Bhakti Kalpataru, Tarura of desire, tree of devotional service, Teno, he is, Prathama, first, Ankura, fructification. All glories to Shri Madhavendra Puri, the storehouse of all devotional service, unto Krishna. He is desire tree of the devotional service, and it is in him that the seed of devotional service first fructified. Purport: Shri Madhavendra Puri, also known as Shri Madhava Puri, belonged to the disciplic succession from Madhavacharya and was greatly celebrated. Sannyasi Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the third disciplic descendant from Shri Madhavendra Puri. The process of worship in the disciplic succession of Madhavacharya was full of ritualistic ceremonies. With hardly a sign of love of Godhead, Sri Madhavendra Puri was the first person in this disciplic succession to exhibit the symptoms of love of Godhead and the first to write a poem beginning with the words, I Dina Dayardra Nath, O supremely merciful personality of Godhead in that poem is the seed of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cultivation of love of Godhead. Verse 11. श्री ईश्वर पुरी रूपे अंकुर पुष्ट हैला आपने चैतन्य माली स्कंध उपजिला. Shri Ishwarpuri, by the name Shri Ishwarpuri Rupe, in the form of Ankur, the seed, Pushta, cultivated, Haila, became Apane himself, Chaitanya Mali, the gardener of the name Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Skanda, trunk, Upajila, expanded. The seed of devotional service next fructified in the form of Shri Ishwarpuri, and then gardener himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, became the main trunk of the tree of devotional service. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Shri Ishwarpuri was a resident of Kumarhatta, where there is now a railroad station known as Kamarhatta. Nearby there is another station named Hali Sahara, which belongs to the Eastern Railway. The railway runs from the eastern section of Calcutta, or like we say now, Kolkata again. Ishwarpuri appeared in a Brahmin family and was the most beloved disciple of Srila Madhavendra Puri. In the last portion of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Ante Lila, 8th chapter, verses 20 to 31, it is stated, Ishwar Puri Goshani Kare Shripad Sevana Swahaste Karane Karena Mala Mutradi Marjana Niranta Krishna Nama Karaya Smarana Krishna Nama Krishna Lila Shunaya Ankushna Tushtahana Puri Tanre Kaila Alingana Varadila Krishne Tomara Ha Uka Premadhana Say Haite Ishwara Puri Premera Sakara. At the last stage of his life, Sri Madhavendra Puri became an invalid and was completely unable to move, and Ishwar Puri engaged himself in his service, and he personally cleaned up his stool and urine, always chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and reminding Sri Madhavendra Puri about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. In the last stage of his life, Ishwar Puri gave the best service among his disciples. Thus Madhavendra Puri, being very pleased with him, blessed him, saying, My dear boy, I can only pray to Krishna that he will be pleased with you. Thus Ishwar Puri, by the grace of his spiritual master, Sri Madhavendra Puri, became a great devotee in the ocean of love of Godhead. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti states in his Guru Ashtaka prayer, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad Prasado Yasya Prasadan Nagati Kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one is blessed by the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. It is by the mercy of the spiritual master or the Guru that one becomes perfect, as vividly exemplified here. Vaishnavas is always protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but if he appears to be an invalid, this gives a chance to his disciples to serve him. Ishwar Puri pleased his spiritual master by service and by blessings of his spiritual master. He became such a great personality that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted him as his spiritual master. Srila Ishwar Puri was the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but before initiating Lord Chaitanya, he went to Navadvip and lived for a few months in the house of Gopinath Acharya. At the time, Lord Chaitanya became acquainted with him, and it is understood that he served Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by reciting his book Krishna Lilamrit. This is explained in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat Adi Khanda chapter 11. To teach others by example how to be a faithful disciple of one's spiritual master, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, visited the birthplace of Ishwar Puri at Kumarhatta and collected some earth from his birth side. This he kept very carefully, and he used to eat a small portion of it daily. This is stated in Chaitanya Bhagavat Adikanda chapter 17. It has now become customary for devotees following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go there and collect some earth from that place. Verse 12. Nija Chintya Shakti Mali Hana स्कंद है सकल Shakara say Skandha Mulashraya. Nija, his own Achintya, inconceivable Shakti by potency, Mali gardener Hana becoming Skandha trunk, hai became Sakala all, Shakara of all. Other branches say that Skandha trunk, Mulashraya original support. By his inconceivable powers, the Lord became the gardener, the trunk, and the branches simultaneously. And we'll continue from verse 13 of chapter 9 onwards. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.